Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Exploring the Car with host Ra Castaldo. And this is Wednesday morning, the first week in June. And you see, this is going to be titled the Long Beach Los Angeles series. And yes, Los Angeles. That's the city of Los Angeles in California. I lived in Long Beach, California for 2 years, from early winter 2002, like January 2002, until late following winter. Until basically about 1.5, 2 years, all of 2002 and most of all of 2003. I think I left in like December of 2003. So I've had a good 15 years almost to piece together and dissect all of the experiences that happened to me out there, because now I believe that I was led out there by a menagerie of things, maybe a whole group of different entities and even military programs as well. These 2 years was probably it's interesting, because not only was I living the most free I ever was at the time, I might have been living the most watched I ever was at any time as well, because I didn't have any of life's prisons that they tend to form over you then. Like, I didn't have so many bills and responsibilities and jobs like I do now. Like back then, for those 2 years I lived out there, I was working I was feeding myself by working as a street musician. I would travel around playing my guitar different places, and on the side I was working for the store where I was handing out flyers. It was like an underground hot topics kind of store, like a gothic kind of store that used to show art from the neighborhood in there and people in the neighborhood, and the people that owned the store had a local band, so they would throw me a few bucks here and there to help out their store, and I was playing music on the street. So, I played a couple of shows, like venues and things like that, while I was out there as well. So I was, and at that time, like, I was, more of it was like I was living as a free spirit. But now that I look back, I pretty much believe that I was led out there, because we'll get into that in another video cast, video blog, whatever you want to call it. But I had to have been some kind of programming, because the way I ended out there, which I'll get up into in another show, but it was just mysterious altogether how I ended up in Long Beach. I left New York spur of the moment on a bus, and my family didn't even know I was going. Like, it was pretty intense. And pretty much my whole 2 years out there, my whole time out there, was riddled with paranormal and supernatural experiences. And the one park that I'm going to focus on in my next few videos is called Chavez Park, which is an ominous, high energy, enchanting, mysterious park. I've pretty much come to find out any forest or any national park or local park, most of them, I'm coming to find out, have portals, and this network of portals, gateways to alternate dimensions, some of which there is no way back, or if there is, the window to get back is a very small window. And you see, like I've said it before, but Gaia, Earth, may be one of the only planets in existence that has a material plane that experiences the five senses in a structured time setting like we do. We have so many seconds and minutes to the day, always rushing to get things done. We're always on a structured time, you know. We have to always pay bills by a certain date, always do this by a certain time, always do this by a certain time. And it's a trap, you know. In these other planes of existence, from what I've experienced and from what other people have experienced, there is no barriers of time like we have. It just is. So, like when we go to other planets through technology, through all types of different things, you know, even astronauts when they go to other places, you know, and when we look at even like the rover, it looks like a barren landscape, right? Well, maybe because we can't see with our visible light spectrum, the other planes of existence. And maybe Earth is just a special breathing storage facility where we have this material plane simulation where we feel the joy and pain and what comes with the five senses. And maybe other planets do not have that material plane. They have alternate planes of existence that we can't see with our regular eyes, that we might only be able to tap into with our mind's eye. And I feel what happened to me in this park was me experiencing an alternate dimension. A lot of these dimensions, I believe, through ancient lore, through other people's encounters, through my own encounters, that it's a reflection. A lot of them are a reflection of this world. You know, it'll be almost the same exact, like say where I'm in that park, it will be the same exact park in this alternate dimension, yet time and light and different things are only reflections of this dimension. And it's an interesting, that's why I call them, some of them, the lower astral Fey realms. And this video will be in two different playlists. It'll be part of my new playlist called the Long Beach Los Angeles series, and it'll also be in my Fey Chronicles series. Now, what I end up believing happened to me in the Cesar Chavez Park, I've had many encounters in Long Beach, some of which I've never talked about before because they weren't as heavy duty as the other ones that I've talked about on radio shows I've been on, in my show, and you know, things like that. I kind of put the big highlights out there, but you know, I went through on a daily basis being psychically open and really tapped in. You know, like I said, it was the most alive I've ever been in my life. I just went wherever the wind whispered me to go. And you know, after 15 years of thinking about these experiences and realizing that I basically disappeared from this material plane dimension for about a day and a half's time when I stepped into this energy center inside the park that activated what can only be described as a portal. I'm going to get into that story in the next part, but this story lines up with this other one because this one happened first. So I'm going to get to the portal part after that. But let me explain to you first what the park layout is like, and I will put a description in the comments below of the park. You will see a picture from Google Earth with the bird's eye view of the park, showing you the layout. You can also find a picture at thecosmicswitchboard.com, which is a website of my buddy James Bartley. He has had me on his show a few times, and if you search my name, you will find the picture of the park from Google Earth. This park is called the Cesar Chavez Park, like I said, in Long Beach. It's at the end of Long Beach, right before the 710. And I lived on 4th Street, which is right alongside the park. I lived a couple blocks up, but the park is on Golden Avenue, or Golden Street, Golden whatever, and it's between 1st and 4th Street and Golden. So the park runs all the way from 1st Street all up to 4th Street, those four, you know, and on Golden, you know. So 1st and Golden to 4th and Golden, you can find Cesar Chavez Park. And when you first walk into the park, and this is a very active park on a daily basis, and let me remind you too that from doctors to homeless, all types of humans got drawn to this park. I walked into this park before I started having really intense experiences. I was walking into this park on a daily basis for a good year, and it was almost very ritualistic the way I would be in the park. And like I would walk into the park usually with my guitar on my back, my acoustic guitar, and I would walk into the park and walk around this energy center thing a certain way several times. Then I would walk to the back of the park, sit on the benches, play my guitar. Okay, so when I mention this energy center, when you walk into the park and go to the back, it's to the back right. And if you look into Kabbalah or sacred geometry or any kind of symbology, metaphysical symbology, and esoteric symbology, you will see an energy center, which is like almost a circles within circles. You'll see a circle, and then inside the circle are other circles, almost like a maze, you know. And this park has one of them. And inside the circle are poems written by like George Washington Carver or somebody like that. And then there's benches alongside this circle, and the benches have like hands with eyes in them and different cards from that, which almost look like tarot cards, but they're from that Mexican game, the Loteria, which is like a Mexican bingo game that has almost like a life lottery, you know. So when I stepped into that portal, like I basically did see little people and had a prophetic experience. I lost a day and a half's time. I got malnourished. I got all different things happened to me. So that's going to be a whole different other video. And if that tweaks your interest, you can go listen to prior radio show interviews that I've been on. I know for sure I've talked about it on Solaris Blue Raven show at one time. I talked about it on Starseed Awakening before with Misha Johnston. I talked about it on Lead Project. I've talked about it on the Cosmic Switchboard, so you can find it out there. So getting to what I want to talk about, my first main encounter that happened in that park, that I can say was supernatural or paranormal or something to that effect, was when, and the only time that I can recall I've ever seen what I call as I guess my spirit guide, or one of my spirit guides, I saw her in the actual physical plane. I was going to say in actual reality, but our soul time, our dream time is actually our reality. That's our alpha. This physical plane, this is not our reality. This is some false reality ruled by some material world. Archonic influence, simulation, some kind of realm like that. Because think about it. A beautiful, loving, all-knowing, omniscient God, why would he create a beautiful being to experience suffering and death and pain? Usually you create something to live, not to die. So something happened to our bodies where we only experience a short amount of time in this physical plane. We used to be here thousands of years. Now we only live 70, 80, 100 if we're really lucky. And we are at an accelerated time rate where seconds are still the same seconds, but they're sped up somehow. And we can't even realize it. But somehow it's being sped up. Time is being ushered forward, and the first time I ever seen, well, like I said, this was the only time, or first time and only time I've ever seen her in the physical realm. But this, I guess we'll call her spirit guide for now, because I don't know any other better label, because I feel like she's also an attachment somehow to me, and I've been hiding her, because as far as I know, she's been with me since 1987, when I was about 10 years old. And some of you have heard the story before. I'll get into it real quick. I won't go through the whole story, but first time I've ever had a out-of-body experience as well. And a month before me and my family went to Disney in Florida, in 1987, I had a near-death experience. Where I had an operation, and I won't get into the whole thing there, but I was basically passed out and lost all oxygen to my brain, and they had to do a rush emergency surgery on me. And what happened during my unconscious time was a near-death experience, some kind of DNA activation, where I had encounters what I call the Grigori, and that's a whole nother story as well. But after that happened, some kind of activation happened within me, and a month later, I was already starting to have some psychic experiences, seeing spirits. My whole way of thinking had started to change. So we go to Disney now, a month later or so, September of 1987, we were in Orlando, Florida, in Disney, and we were staying at the Hilton Hotel. And first time I was ever on a plane, first time ever going too far away from my home, and there was this new attraction at Disney called Figment, and Figment was a purple dinosaur, and like figment of your imagination, and Figment was the new thing in Disney that year, one of the new things in Disney. And the interesting thing is, hope that cop doesn't pull out, but whatever. The interesting thing is that way more to the story than I can possibly even imagine, because I really think it's connected to the Babylon workings and other things as well. The more research I've done, the more thinking about it. I mean, and this was 1987, and one of the first memories I could possibly even think of that, you know, because I don't remember too much else from that year. Especially, I had a massive concussion too, that, you know, really, like, yeah, there's certain things that happen where I even feel that my parents might have been under some kind of programming to have me in Florida at that Hilton at that point in time, because there's something ominous about that hotel. I felt it as soon as we arrived at that hotel, me having had that awakening and starting to be psychically in tune with my own self and my surroundings. From the time I was 9 years old to the time that I was like 14 and 15, and then started like smoking weed and doing things in school with my friends and like going down the wrong path for a little while. But from the time I was like 9 to like 13, I was extremely psychic, really psychic. And going back to think about it, even when I was 6 years old, when I had experience with those electricity beings that wanted me to bite the wires, I guess I was always psychic. But when that near-death experience happened in 1987, it awakened some kind of genetic ancestral abilities, some kind of memory in my DNA. So this experience, you know, I gotta go through it fast, and I'm about to get into work. But so basically, I was on the beach with my mom and dad. I was boogie boarding for the first time, body surfing, whatever you want to call it, and the waves were beating me up extremely. Where I don't think I've ever was that tired in my whole life. I could barely make it back to the hotel room. My mom was taking me back to the hotel room to nap before we went to dinner, for me to shower and nap. So we went back to the hotel room. My dad wasn't with us yet. My mom brought me there. I showered. She put me in bed, and she went to go get ice or something. She left the room for a minute. And while I was laying there in bed, I laid down on bed, and I felt myself sink into the bed, almost like I was weightless though. Like I couldn't feel my body, but I felt myself drop in. And then the next thing I know, I guess I dozed off for a second, and let me remind you, or rewind for a second, that I had a stuffed animal of that Figment. It was like a purple dinosaur with a little yellow shirt that said Figment, and I had that little stuffed animal with me, and I was holding it. So as I dozed off and felt sunken into the bed, the next thing I remember was I was floating in the air towards the ceiling. And the room, even though there was no candles lit, the room had a glow of candles. And it's funny because this wasn't the only time that during one of these experiences I smelled flowers as well. So I smelled a flowery scent in the room as well. I remember this very clearly. So as I'm floating up to the ceiling, I was on my I was actually facing my belly up towards the ceiling, and my arms were out. And then when I looked over to my left, I was floating up at the ceiling like this, and when I looked over to my left, there was a young girl between the ages of 10 and 13 floating there as well, and she was reaching her hand out to me. And then I realized we're not alone here in this room. I looked down because I heard the chanting, and I looked down and I saw my body in bed, but I couldn't see myself anymore. I only could see my body in bed, sleeping, holding that Figment doll. But I could not see my arms or my body of myself floating in the air. But I saw the Indian girl or Native American girl, whatever you want to say, floating there next to me. Very dark complexion, very young, very cute, hair very pinned straight, and she was reaching her arm out to me. And then in around the bed where my body was, there was a whole bunch of beings standing there, chanting. And they were basically human komodo dragons. I couldn't see their bodies, but they were walking upright. They were standing upright. And they all had these thick, dark purple robes on, hooded. And sticking out of the hood was the face of like a komodo dragon. And they were standing there, and they were very slender. They weren't thick. But the robe was very thick. Their bodies didn't look like they were fat or anything like that. They looked kind of slim. But these beings were chanting something that I will never forget. It was very similar to a Native American chant, but almost like it was stuck in a backwards loop. Like, hey, hey, zoop, 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 hey, zoop, 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 something like that. And I went to reach out to her hand that was reaching out to me. And then I heard the door jiggle. Like, I guess my mom was arriving back at the room and put the card in the door or was about to open the door. As soon as I heard that door getting touched, everything got sucked back. Everything just disappeared instantly. I got sucked back to my body, and I was gripping that Komodo dragon. And, I was, trying to explain to my mom what just happened. I was gripping that Figment stuffed animal. And, I was trying to explain to her that I saw all these Figment purple dinosaurs in the room, and that's how I was relating it. And she was, wow, you had some crazy dreams. She didn't really believe me. But, so that was ever since then, and I feel that she may have been being summoned for some kind of Babylon workings or some kind of snake ritual, Hopi, because she, from my connection, and you see this, since then, she's been with me in astral, and she plays like charades with me. It's like a silent movie she shows me, talking to me with her eyes, like a knowing, and expressions. And in the center of eyes, and in the center of my mind, somehow I know the story of what she's relaying to me. And we sometimes, when I meditate, she'll grab me by the hand in my mind, and we'll sit underneath the stars or in a flowery meadow, and she'll show me a silent movie. And from that, I've learned that she was part of the Hopi tribe and a star child, and that she was taken from the tribe at around 10 years old or so, and I guess died. And she's been forever that age, and I feel that she was being summoned during that moment in the Hilton Hotel to be used in some kind of ritual. And now maybe somehow she's been hiding with me from that ritual ever since then, and so I did know what she looked like. I did have her with me. So then, fast forward now from 1987 to 2002, and I'm in this park in Long Beach. And this was an active park. It was active during the day at this time. And I basically, there was a lot of people in the park. I was walking, there's like a little hill, like a little short little hill you got to walk up to get to the grass, and I was walking across the grass, and sprinklers were on because the grass was still wet in the morning, and the sprinklers had just been active, so it was like glistening. The water, the grass was like glistening, and then everything was moving in like fast forward first, and then all of a sudden it slowed down, and something made me look across the park, and everybody that was moving in the park was going flying by, but then this young girl was standing there, like, and I could see like everything a blur going by her, but then she was just perfectly clear in the middle of the blur, and everything fast moving by her, but then her just standing there, and I can see like the layers of her body, the 5 bodies. Like I can see her material body, I could see her spirit, her soul, her aura, and her astral, all there, like layers, all glowing around her. And then she looked up at me, and I looked directly in her eyes, probably 100 feet away, and I heard in my mind, very sweet and very clear, in a young girl's voice, Beth, Beth. And I knew from then on that her name was Beth, and or that's what I should call her. And in some occult symbology, the name Beth means to house a spirit. And this is going to be continued in my next, or in a future video, because I got to go into work. And I want to thank you all for joining me. Friday on my show Spiral Radio, I'm having Tim Beckley, and it's going to be about time travel and the Vril Society and Nazi time travelers and things to that nature. And have a good day, everybody, and spiral out.